All right, we're live.
Okay, everyone. Another session of Nai'xyy Temple. Due to technical reasons of an apartment move, am just a faceless voice today. But Nai'xyy Coach here. We also have
Nai'xyy Mitchell.
Nai'xyy Ben.
And Nai'xyy Glenn.
All right. So tonight we have two things major we want to cover. One is the case study of Lucas Witt, a Nai'xyy who thought he might be a Nai'xyy. And then we also want to talk about doubt demons, something that is important to everyone, but Nai'xyy run into a lot in their peaking cycles. Okay, let's start with Lucas Witt. We all just watched a few minutes of the first one he sent in, and that had a more of a close-up view of him. And then he sent in another video that was older where he was on a stage and had a further away view. Okay, so we'll be referencing those two different videos. Okay, let's see. I can go and start off real quick, and then I'll kind of hand off to you guys. What we were kind of talking about before we came on camera is that there was tensioning in him that showed that he is directive, but that he's doing yin stuff a lot, and that he has a lot of Zai, and it comes out a lot in a overall stiffness and slowness in his movements, and a bit of a monotone flatness in his voice, although he actually still, you can see, has quick thoughts and does articulate very well. So that's kind of what I saw, just like high level. You guys want to kind of jump in? We'll just go from here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, in the first video, he was talking about a lot of stuff. He was talking about pod layer, the Omni theory, and he was comparing it to other models. He also was mentioning that he was kind of toggling back and forth between either the Nai'xyy is what he called it, but that's not called Nai'xyy. It's actually Nai'xyy, and it's pronounced like what was that one movie? Gigi, Coach, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was going back and forth between both the Nai'xyy and the Nai'xyy, and he was also making some similarities, and he was asking for the differences between pod layer and like socionics, Kersey. He said that he was saying that there were similarities between the 8 powers that we have in pod layer, and
I think that got addressed fairly well in his confirmation email, and so I think he has sent in like an email recently that he understands that his understanding of like cognitive functions and powers needs some updating. But yes, you are right that his initial video was from that headspace.
right, and in the confirmation video was the rationality and logic-based, values-based thing. Like sometimes people can think that people who are values-based lack rationality.
Oh yeah, you said that too. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but yes, I did. I think I did address those points. But the thing I think he's still having trouble with is
He wants to see that he's a Nai'xyy, like what cues are giving that away.
And not a Nai'xyy or Nai'xyy.
Yeah.
So did you guys? Maybe I'll throw some stuff out, and you guys can talk about.
No, I definitely have some stuff I noticed as well. Another one is the subjectivity. Is that so subjective rather than objective? Is that he has a lot of stopping and starting like naturally in the way that he talks. That's something that subjectives tend to do a lot more.
But
yeah, it's good articulation, and there's a lot of pauses, and they actually make a good effect, I think, to accentuate the point. Yeah. So it's not a bad thing, but that is something subjectives tend to do, is they have sort of kind of a coming to life quality and then stopping.
I like that.
Objective.
Hunters have that coming to life quality, sort of a lull and articulation, and then a lull and percussion with the gesturing.
Yes. And then another thing is, especially in the first video where he wasn't on stage, is that he was doing just on gear 1 was doing a lot of Nai drifts.
Yeah, I saw that
too.
So
like
and like 1,000-yard stairs.
1,000-yard stairs. I mean, knee alpha, you just won't.
No.
Yeah.
Also, close view. I think he was even trying to do like adaptive gesturing or whatever, but it was directive gesturing. And even he tried to do pretend. He was trying to like make pretend directive gesturing. It still looked like Warm Wizard. It had that flicking quality. I wish I had a camera, Dave. You guys maybe can do it like that. The quality that all our hands have. It has that kind of like, you know what I mean? It just looks sort of kung fu-y. Yeah, I noticed that in both videos, particularly also in the one on stage. when he was doing his yin movements, because directive gesturing, their hands tend to be synchronized more, and there's low viscosity. His hands sort of look like, I don't know, like planes that were in some sort of holding pattern. It didn't look free-flowing like an actual Nai'xyy would.
Exactly. That's
and just free going. It looked like it was. It did look like something was meant to go faster with more forward drive, and it was like in a holding pattern, a slowed down holding pattern for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's actually a good point to make, Coach, because I was actually thinking about this before on my own, and I was thinking about directive and adaptive, and I was thinking like, what makes them kind of different in the way that they gesture? It's that directives, they kind of understand everything in relation to everything else.
Dynamics, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, like the hands, they're understood. Like I understand my right hand, given my left hand. I understand what up is, given what down is. Left and right, forward, backward, that sort of thing. And that's kind of like the headspace that directives kind of are in all the time.
That's true. Agenda and articulation are just there always.
Adaptives, they don't see that. It's more just like there's no beginning, there's no end, there's no middle. It's just in the moment kind of thing.
Yeah, on the second video where he's on stage, his style of delivering the whole thing was very much like Nai'xyy we've seen at TED Talks and also Nai'xyy stand-up comedians. And again, not that Nai'xyy don't do 1 hour comedy sets. They do it very well. But it has a different energy. It's not as orchestrated. His whole delivery, the way he did everything, the way he had the audience kind of like, he was like, you know what I mean, like a conductor. He was conducting that audience. Like I said, Nai'xyy comedians also can get great reactions in the crowd, but they don't orchestrate it like that. He had it like
no
on beat.
reactive.
He's like on beat with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
He kind of had like a plan in mind of like how he was gonna do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And even when Nai'xyy just freeform, like they just go on with like a simple list.
Yeah.
Of items they're going to talk about, but their synonymy, their similar naturally has it in a story form. So when we start talking, even though we don't know, you guys had the experience where you actually didn't realize you were retelling a story until you started explaining something, and then you realize like halfway through, I guess I'm telling a story, and then you just finish it off.
You don't have to plan literally what you're going to say for that.
Exactly, you don't have to literally plan it. It just does it that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For example, on that, like his the way he had his like setup and punchline, on his like cool like little deliverables on the on-stage performance, it really reminded me a lot of the way Nai'xyy comedians actually set up their punchlines. It has a certain rhythm to it that carries you through, like a monologue rhythm. Even the pauses are like for effect. Like on stage, I don't think I saw that portion where he was laughing, and he would sometimes laugh at like a funny thing he said or the reaction the crowd gave, but it was really Zai heavy because he was doing it to be polite, and he was doing it to sell that what he just said was amusing, interesting. And so his laugh was like, it had like a bit of a shortness to it, and a bit of like a clamp down to it. You guys know you do it, like that polite laugh. It's a polite laugh. And it was polite, and it was quickly cut off so he could continue on with his monologue.
Yeah, it's very controlled.
Very controlled.
Like Nai'xyy can have laughs where it gets more crazy and just getting completely taken over by it. But like when you can put the Zai on to keep it short and staccato like that and controlled.
And since he thought he might be a Nai'xyy in particular, we can also mention the fact that the way he did that was definitely he was Jing for effect, and then he would Zai because he didn't want to spend too much time giving that that laugh. That was very Xi on the left, Zai, and pretty much he's got a lot of Zai head tilts most of the time to the right, so he's cooling on the right. So that kind of rules out Nai'xyy on just the sermons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you also could think maybe his articulation, because he did have a lot of Zai in his voice. So you could think of maybe, it's cool articulation, but it's a completely different. Yeah, it's completely different game. Yeah, like with cool articulation, what will happen is the cooling actually increases as they get more into the articulation.
Exactly.
That's not what happens with him. It's actually just that he's kind of muting the warmth of his articulation, but it actually slows it down and makes it more controlled. Totally. That's not really what Z does.
Absolutely.
What Zai does.
You see that one point, because you're right, Mitchell, he's doing that most of the time.
Yeah.
I saw there was a small portion of it where he's making a point, and he kind of walks forward and says something about I forget exactly the exact context, but he wants to make sure there's no question about where he is on this as a person. And he walks forward and he kind of eyeballs the audience and goes, "And I would never lie to anyone basically about that." And basically he got real serious. And ironically, it was done briefly, but that was the one time he was actually heavily in momentum.
Yeah.
He was walking forward, his G was getting a bit in the voice, and he was eyeballing with his Nai'xyy the audience, which is, look at me now, I'm saying something to you, and you can feel my G, so you know it's true. You know it's true because I'm looking at you with these truth eyes, and I'm G'ing you. So he did it only briefly, but when he did, his energy surged on that, and his natural charisma went up, and it easily went into his face, and his voice took on that kind of full warm G flavor that Nai'xyy mojos just don't get. Even though they have G, it never goes above like a certain vocal midline. His did. Yeah. When he got serious, he started getting a little passionate there. It went past.
Sometimes I notice that when Nai'xyy get more really like into their momentum, people can kind of think that the Nai'xyy is a little bit crazy.
Yes.
They might dismiss the Nai'xyy.
They're actually getting the passionate sub-signal. Like, that's really something that Nai'xyy give off that Nai'xyy mojos don't as much. They always have them flexible.
And also the Nai'xyy, too, because this guy actually also...
Well, yeah, the unnerving kind of Nai'xyy.
Because he thinks he's adaptive as well, is that the Nai'xyy, the way it is, when it gets going, it does unnerves people. Because it was been unnerving when he did that move. I don't know exactly what he did.
Right, and I can see what you're saying, because like Nai'xyy might want to control that.
Yeah, exactly. But actually... Generally, that's because the audience isn't the right audience. When a Nai'xyy does that in stand-up comedy, when they do it in art, when they do it with a lover, when they do it at any time in inspirational speech to a bunch of revolutionaries, they want that particular kind of like fanaticalness of passion because it's appropriate. But the thing is, when's it appropriate? Most people would say it's like appropriate. It's inappropriate most of the time, and then there's a fact that when they say it would be appropriate, it's generally not when Nai'xyy, who are strong Nai'xyy with a lot of independence of mind, would say it is. They say, okay, only in the fervor of a sermon, only in the fervor of a war against a nationalistic enemy. Then it's okay for you to get that intense when you're talking to your friends and lovers and so forth. But the rest of the time, it's not right. But actually, Nai'xyy are supposed to do that on a regular basis, and they need to do it specifically. This one, Nai'xyy comes in first because it lets you actually have thoughts that you wouldn't have otherwise. If you actually try to clamp down on what your visions actually want to say, you won't get the higher truth. If you want the higher truth, it has to come out in the way it wants to sound off, not the way you want it to sound. Especially in the further away video, but also in the one who's closer up, he was very concerned with how he was sounding.
Yeah.
And
to a degree, because that's something that G is good at, but that's not really how Nai'xyy works, and Nai'xyy...
No, and the Nai'xyy is actually too concerned with how he's coming across, and basically, in general, like I noticed, particularly in the one where he's on stage, he was trying to persuade this audience strongly, but while really trying not to offend them. And this put him in a bit of like, driving forward while still on the parking brakes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, a really awkward position.
It is. Although, to give him his credit, he actually was making some good articulation from that state. But it could have been more charismatic, and it could have been more there. Nai'xyy gives a tremendous energy that gives, like, I'm talking about something epic. In order to, like, sometimes control Nai'xyy, you lose its epicness. The epic impact is lost when you try to control its delivery too much.
It has to be kind of off the chain. That's sort of the price you pay for using full-on Nai'xyy. It has to be able to detach and just do anything regardless of expectations, just to what the truth is.
I think there's also the shape-shifting that gets in there too. The way that, like we shape-shift to sort of become uber real. And that has to do with the HSP, and so then that makes you more present. That makes you more hypnotic to look at when you're able to sort of account for that.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And also, it's the question of shape-shifting, absolutely right, but also which form you go into, and going back to what you were saying, how closely that form is in alignment with the moment. Because I think, like, with what he's doing is, I think a lot of Nai'xyy, when they think that they're adaptive, is they're afraid of ruining it. But actually that fear is keeping them from realizing what it actually is. I noticed a lot of Nai'xyy, for example, that think they're adaptive. There can often be a tremendous fear of their own ability to see truth and what that will mean for implications. They're afraid of the intensity they'll feel things. Like, they don't want to feel that intense about how things should be different. And then they're afraid of the reactions people get to when they would be in their most natural state. So I think Nai'xyy have a tremendous amount of fear about how they work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people just don't respect the way that Nai'xyy are until, if the world was more conducive to the Nai'xyy and was more understanding, then I think a lot of these fears wouldn't really be there as much. So
Definitely.
that's what I noticed.
I think it's interesting on that is that him doing kind of the preacher mode, which Nai'xyy do for all kinds of models, spiritual models, science models. Nai'xyy like to preach what they believe in. Is that what he was doing? The mode he was in, it was keeping him rather restricted. Obviously, he had a back brace on, but the way his voice was, the way his head was tilted, the movement of his hands, the viscosity he was trying to imitate. How much yin gesturing he was doing, that all is separate from the back brace being on. So clearly there was a lot of inhibition of his projecting. But interesting enough, I try to be fair here, he was in a ritual where it was okay for him to monologue for a significant period of time. So too much restraint on how he shape-shifted, but they did give, there was a form that he was doing it in that seemed to actually give him some lift. But I don't know. Do you guys gonna get that? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Is like he seemed like he was getting a bit of a half lift from it.
Yeah.
You mean like like he obviously, we all know the classic symptoms. He had like the slower movement, the heavier voice, the less the charisma. So he was definitely diminished. But he was doing like a fairly long ritual where he gets to monologue what he believes in. So that, you know what I mean? Like, one thing is energy diminishing, and the other one was actually energy gaining at the same time.
Yeah, and the diminishing had to do with. Could you maybe get into that a little bit? I think, Coach. He was getting into it because I think he was feeling what he was saying, and the reason why I think it was diminishing was because I think he doesn't really know that he's a Nai'xyy. That's one thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And he knows to a degree. That's a very good point. This is like subliminal. He knows to a degree because the amount of and Nai'xyy actually mentioned this in his latest vlog, is he alluded to anyway, is he knows enough about himself that he is Zion constantly so he doesn't fuck up. Do you mean? So he is aware in some sort of subtle subconscious way that if he doesn't keep the Zai on, he'll mess up. Something about his innate way will cause a problem. So that's kind of funny. People can actually have like clamps on for a certain reason, but not know that reason like consciously.
No, and they've been on for so long that they're like, they think it's normal, I guess.
Kind of like he was saying about how he thought he used to be subjective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but as far as the energy movement, Glenn, the vision I just got real quick is kind of like a bioship going through an environment. There are basically there is the peak pathway peaking properly on its own by the operator, and then the environment feeding it. That's what basically makes it go forward. So piloting and fuel. Okay, now for the slowing, there's basically three things. One is that there could be higher viscosity, in this case, as far as, like, say, directive energy, but he's non-adaptive, so it's not actually viscosity. And it's a subtle thing, but I'm curious if you guys know this. is you know that there's like the higher viscosity with the adaptives. But when he moved slowly, but not with viscosity. His limbs looked to me like he was doing some sort of slow style kung fu like Tai Chi, which is different than loose. It's slow. And he did a lot of yin slow movements, but they were all like orchestrated slow yin movements. And that
that's a good point. Yeah, like, and a Nai'xyy Alpha actually too, like when they get going, they're not like they have viscosity, more viscosity than hunters, but they can actually go pretty quick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Cadence.
Yeah.
They actually go fast but have viscosity. He was the opposite. He was going slow, but he had low viscosity. Every now and then he moved his hands naturally, and they've had a quick lull and percussion rhythm that Nai'xyy do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like Nai'xyy Alpha, their Gumby claws pretty quick, but it's
definitely. So as far as the ship going slowing down, going forward, it's for momentum for directive. The other two things it can be is the brakes, which there was a lot of the Nai'xyy brakes. So those Nai'xyy brakes were causing him to be diminished, Glenn, in that his ship basically just cannot hit top speed, top energy because he's got the brakes on. Then the other one is fuel. He also is not operating with as much fuel or the highest quality fuel. More high quality fuel also makes the ship go better. So even when he was younger, I think he showed like kind of a heaviness of a person who thinks about big things, which is a credit to him, and also a good amount of articulation powers. But he looked tired. Energetically, he looked like even then, besides the back brace, he just looked sort of tired. And then the gestures looked inhibited. Because for one thing, when adaptives get their adaptive gesturing going, and they're doing a lot of yin gesturing, it gets quicker while having viscosity, and it tends to put people more at ease. He was putting people at ease like a gunslinger keeps their gun in. In fact, he did that several times. I don't know if you guys caught that gesturing. It was subtle, but once I noted, he kept doing it. He kept actually putting his hands like a yin position, and then whenever they kind of like start going too much yang, he would actually, or even just with his energies, HSP would come up, he would kind of put his hands or his thumbs in his side pockets, like holstering a gun. He also would put his hands like to his chest, like they were guns in side vest holsters, and he would like almost literally keep holstering his gesturing.
Yeah.
So when for example, like a Demas is doing that, and Xiaolin, they do that like holstering or self-touching, or you know what I mean, that kind of. It looks more like they are comforting themselves, and it's relaxing, and they're enjoying it. He looked like a gunslinger, a metaphysical gunslinger that kept making sure his guns were in the belt and he wasn't pulling them out. That's just never going to look. That's just not ever going to have a lot of strong energy. You know what I mean? Because he's basically you can't be very effective when you're mainly not doing something. Not doing something's not a forward plan.
Yeah, and it's just not. It's not as calming as a genuine, like a true adaptive.
No. I got this. Here it is. It's non-threatening.
It's non-threatening. It's like I was saying how Nai'xyy don't want to sometimes in certain modes to unnerve people.
Right.
And there are times when that can be good, and it's good that they have the ability to holster their energy. But that's altered state. It's
right.
They're not a strong energetic position. Whereas for adaptives, just the enjoying of their whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just their general, the holstering of their energy and being in their own personal space while just drinking in the environment. That's actually strong position for them, and actually moving around and actually moving dynamics and planning. They do that more so that they can get back to the enjoying.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're more in their tower.
Yeah.
Hunters are more
in their tower, or more just drinking in for the gatherers.
Yeah, definitely like a timeout.
Yeah. Timeout. Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else that comes to our mind on this before we move on to the other subject? Let's see. Like he did a lot of natural channeling in the first one.
Yeah.
Night drift. So he did like
already did his room. Yeah.
Drifting as well.
A lot of night drifts. A lot of night squinting.
Yeah, and it was natural state.
Natural state. Squinting.
Go in.
I thought it was funny how like he turned on the camera like in like such a feral state. Like I mean, you could see like he wasn't wearing a shirt. He had like this really long bushy beard. Like
Yeah.
it goes into like this monologuing state. You know
I know
about
you're right. He would exactly. So also
you know
monologue. Definitely.
you know.
No, I thought it was cool though. I mean, his hair was all grungy
That's
and
awesome.
stuff.
Yeah, I like it. It's just fun.
No,
That was
but
more than I
as
needed.
far as,
being
as far as
like
like a Nai'xyy, that's yeah. Not that they can't. There are some Nai'xyy that kind of do that sort of thing, but it's quite unusual. But actually, Nai'xyy
Yeah.
doing that is almost classic.
Yeah. It's like if you see someone doing it, that's usually the first thing you'll look for. That
I
if they're
know.
Nai'xyy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't look so much like a Nai'xyy. He looked more like a werewolf kind of thing.
Yeah. He actually reminded me, again, a bit of Robin Williams,
Mm.
and a bit not the mannequin-ness, but if you ever seen Robin Williams like in interviews where he's being more controlled, he is a very very sensitive person that doesn't like to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
But he also is a deep thinker and couldn't help himself from saying controversial stuff, and so he was always, even when he was not being like his uber funny self, and he was just trying to be like more conversational, I guess. He kept like switching between kind of like almost being sensitive to the point of being faux adaptive, and then sort of like drifting and saying something like heavy and controversial. And so that reminded me a bit. He also reminded me a bit also of Zach Galifianakis.
Oh, yeah.
Scrubs.
No,
No.
No, not
That
Scrubs,
guy.
like Hangover.
Yeah, the Hangover movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So there's obviously the scruffy hair and the beard thing going on, but actually it's also the fact that a lot of comedians, as well as preachers and some other Nai'xyy specialty areas, where as a part of that performance, a lot of times you are not overtly directed. In the preacher modes, a lot of times you're just always showing more the benevolent side of Xi because you want to pitch a certain message and you think that will be the best sell. And then in the case of comedians, different career, but it's similar, and then a lot of times they shapeshift into things to make their points, but don't directly take the form and just literally say their point. So if you ever like challenge them on it, they'll just say, it's just a joke. I was just playing a character. And so that's their way of like kind of getting around it. So a lot of times if you talk to certain comedians, now, a lot of comedians, like Dave Chappelle and so forth, they'll just say, and Richard Pryor, they'll say outrageous stuff, whatever. But some of them are extremely uncomfortable and will just keep shape shifting to, I don't know, almost like kill the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think we kind of covered that pretty good. If he has any follow-up questions, he can ask them, but I think we did a good job there. Now let's move on to the doubt demons. I'll say something really quick, and then I'll hand it off to Ben. Myself, I was dealing with quite a bit of those because of the apartment move. It's very stressful, and there's a lot of logistical details, and getting used to new stuff. So, one, being away from everyone, away from the Podler community, the media, I really felt that heavily, and so my doubt demons started getting on me. And then with the logistical details, I'm really bad at that. So Jailene has done the majority of that, and so that has kind of put a lot of stress on her. So she's been feeling fatigued, and doubt demons are on her, and I feel that strongly because we're such dear friends. So there's that, and then I think also that may be the main things probably, but they did make it. Oh, and I think just not being able to connect with you guys, like I really missed having the Nai'xyy temple and so forth. So anyway, long story short is that I got through them by concentrating on what I knew to be true. I called on Nai'xyy to help me, and she, that thing I told you about earlier, where she would keep trying to show me visions about the way it's been going good and it could be going forward. I had to kind of keep proactively asking her to give me those visions to battle the doubt demons because they were kind of relentless for a while. But I eventually got through, and then I was feeling a lot better. But then Ben said he also was dealing with similar things, and so we thought it would make a good topic to talk about. So Ben, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've had happen to me before, but like over these past few days, um, um, basically I have um, sorry, I'm just waiting for these people to walk by first. Okay, okay. Basically, I have these like cold voices that effectively come to me in times of stress, in times where I'm feeling at odds with the world, like that I've reasons like that I feel a lot of pressure.
Right.
I feel these cold voices come to me, and they basically cut down my confidence, my happiness, uh, my spiritual pride, things of that nature.
Right.
And it's actually the result of that I begin actually doubting myself and things like that. The real kicker for this is really like the drop in confidence, the real drop in like drop in just like the feeling of my, because it's kind of like a painful effect. It's like your head just feels like it's really like it's just been like stabbed or something. Like it's really uncomfortable. Like it's like not, it's not just like the doubt. It's like it's this that they've just been, that you're getting like stabbed and cut down and stuff, and it's literally just the voices themselves are doing it. What the voices are saying, they don't seem to be too particularly like I don't want to say they're not relevant, but they don't seem to, it doesn't seem really what the voices are saying, but the fact that the voices are there. And
right.
So,
and they're doubting you. I know what you mean. No, they'll just pick whatever is convenient to throw at me at those times. But they need to kind of just cast doubt on me being the hero. Me being a wise, me being the hero, me being a winner. It generally should tax that.
And I definitely suspect that, that's definitely where it's coming from. But it can be hard sometimes to figure out like what exactly your Daryu is doubting you on. Where exactly like are you weakest, and that's really the challenge. And trying to figure out like what sort of things can I do to banish these doubt demons.
No, totally.
Yeah, like appease them in a way.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
I mean, it's like
I'll appease them, but you have to do a ritual to have resolution with them.
Yeah,
yes.
or to
Yes.
maybe appease is the wrong word, because sometimes a lot of what they're saying is wrong.
Right.
But like, I don't know. I think of like that. Like, I don't know. You pretty much got it. I mean, there's not much else to say.
I feel like I wanted to.
But as far as dealing, kind of experiencing and dealing with it, I'm curious what you guys have to say about that. I know for myself, but one thing you just said, Ben, is very true. You kind of have to use abductive reasoning to figure out why they are attacking you, and not really get into what they're attacking you with. That doesn't seem to be as irrelevant as the fact they are attacking you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have a better relationship with your Daryu later on. You can even ask them. But if not, you can go to your other and basically ask, like, why am I being attacked? And so I sometimes will ask my Daryu, like, why are you doing this? And then when I like kind of get like just exasperated with them attacking me and like demand, why is this happening? Then sometimes like a moment of clarity will come to me.
And I guess I don't know, something that's relevant to my case is that they seem to attack me more when I lie down and when I like go into my simulator. If that makes sense. If I'm standing up, if I'm moving around, if I'm talking to someone, that like they will still attack me occasionally. That really is annoying. It really gets on me. But it's like if I lie down, they like really go after me. Like sometimes, like it's a lot harder because you have a closer connection to your spirits, and hence you have a closer connection to your Daryu, and that gives your Daryu more opportunities to hit you on stuff.
It definitely. Oh, you really said something there. No, I have a lot of issues going to bed at night.
Yeah, and sometimes for me too, even when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that too. In
I'll
the
have that
morning and
sometime.
The
like
morning,
you
the
go
morning
to
kind of
bed,
feels like they're getting done with beating you up. There was a night long beating,
Yeah.
and it feels like when you lay down, you can feel like they're coming closer to kind of do the gang beating on you.
Yeah.
So, what works? What I mean, I still have a lot of issues with that, but things that have worked for me over the years is, one, I know it's going to happen. So what I do is I call Nai'xyy, and we basically I go and hang out with her Nai'xyy style, but then we Z and Vi like what we got accomplished that day. And that seems to help with the doubt demons and like getting some sort of resolution with them is basically that we did good work, and then also sometimes I'll even start mulling over with this new position we're in, what should I do tomorrow? What should tomorrow's to-do list be? I found that when I think about what I accomplished and what I'm going to accomplish, that headspace makes me less vulnerable when I lay down to sleep. Other things are letting positive media be something you're voyeuristically viewing until you nod off. I do that a lot. I get shows, Nai'xyy likes, for example, lighthearted comedies, nature things that talk about like really cool stuff like that. And I just watch that so that that's occupying my mind until I go off. I still have nightmares, but I find that does help ease it a noticeable bit. Other things are just fatiguing yourself in general. Is I find that the longer there is between you laying down and you going to sleep, that's the period they can jump you in.
yeah.
If you basically, I kind of structure my day so as like a fanatic that I am constantly working different muscles, like metaphysical muscles, so that I try to stack my day that I always have more feats that I can be doing than I have time in the day. And so I'm kind of like, even when I go to sleep, a lot of times I'm like, well, let me watch this show or let me talk to Jailene or whatever, and then I'll get this next thing. And I kind of just keep thinking like, and then I'll get this next thing, and then I'll get this next thing, and then and then I go to sleep. And so that kind of like, that makes the window of when I was doing heroic mission. It can even be very passive if it's late in the day and I'm tired, but I'm still doing some kind of flag forward until I just go out.
I see. So like constantly like keeping a flag forward. Of course, balance. You need to rest at some point. But I mean, like,
you make these very passive voyeuristic flag forwards,
Yeah.
and pick ones that are of a positive nature that will make sure your other will
Yes.
come forward to you in a higher state. I like to do that all the way until I go out. It helps a lot.
So you're always doing something productive or beneficial to yourself, regardless whether it's relaxing or like pushing a really
Hard on something.
Exactly.
tough flag forward.
I do the more like raw, hard stuff earlier in the day, and then later, what I usually do, me and Jailene and Ademus, is we kind of hang out, and we like to watch shows that we've already read most of the cast. And so basically, we're getting really good high-level like mojo insight based on the fact that we already know what they are. We really like the show, and we're just drinking in these cool, dramatic scenarios. So it's a very high-level way to get a flag forward, but it's very, very passive, and I use that a lot until I drift off. Then the nightmares do come, but I notice that it limits the conscious period jumping, and it makes the nightmares that I have during the sleeping time not as bad.
Coach, I noticed something with my. I'll let you. Ben,
Oh,
do you want to say something?
oh yeah. I was just gonna ask, like, I was wondering, like, because the way the Daryu hits you, I mean, that has to be relevant to some degree, like the way it actually goes after you. I mean, I know a lot of it depends on like you personally, but maybe
Yes and
like.
no. Yes and no. Yes and no. That's a good point. No, like we said before, and that a lot of times what it's attacking you with is not really specifically relevant as far as they are correctly dinging you. But where it is a yes is that they're jumping you because you're doing something off or you're not moving in some direction you should be. So the fact you're being jumped, there is a reason. And then back to the specific things they're going after, these specific attack points, It doesn't mean that that's actually what you're doing wrong. It does mean that that's where your metaphysical testicles are. So your Daryu fights real dirty. So when it wants to make a point, it's trying to get your attention for you to like really think on something deep. In order to get that attention, it's going to basically deck you. So just because it's swinging at your head doesn't mean your head's the problem. It does mean you're vulnerable. And so that's what it's going to go for every time.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Interesting.
like with me, you said you kind of talked about how you structured your day, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of am kind of the opposite. I kind of do more relaxing stuff in the morning time, and then I kind of get into the work later in the day. But I try to like make it so that I'm working very, very hard throughout the day. I want to sort of make it so that I'm always doing that. But is that healthy for a Nai'xyy to just be
definitely.
constantly...
Actually, what you said, Glenn, actually fits my rhythm more accurately. I didn't really get more detail. And I should be more specific when I say heavier stuff. So when I wake up in the morning, my preferred thing is to be alone and just kind of like stay in bed, stare at the ceiling. If I can, oftentimes that's not the case, but that's what I'd like to do. From there, I like to slowly get up and sort of like get my bearings in the environment, and then naturally I'll tend to want to either sit or walk around and start thinking and sounding off. So that tends to be very sedentary, very voyeuristic, and even when I'm sounding off, it's mainly by myself and not doing any kind of like hard, productive labor, like on the computer or anything like that. So that's a lot more, I would call like me time. I have a lot more me time sort of stuff earlier, but that gears me up, and then I get into like heavier stuff like writing in particular. Writing and vlogging take a lot of outward energy. Also, like working out, things like that, I tend to do that after I've woken up a bit. And then I push on those kind of pushy things as far as I can. And then once I notice I'm getting tired, I shift into more passive stuff. Sometimes I'll shift from doing like writing and then shift down to mojo reading and then shift down to passively watching shows. So wake up, vision, chill out, walk around, daydream, maybe start thinking some thoughts and make me sound off, go work out, come back, then start getting into like the more in-depth computer stuff until I get tired. I get tired, then I shift to hanging out like on the couch, watching shows I like, but I know who they are until I go to sleep. That's a fairly standard day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So actually, it's fairly similar to what you're talking about.
I was also thinking on the Daryu point. I also wanted to share a little bit of experiences too.
Please.
It has a lot to do with like I don't know, when you have the Daryu moment, do you get like adrenaline in your gut or anything like that?
Oh yes, Nai'xyy tend to actually have stomach issues because of that. It hits them right in the gut. Your stomach will lock up.
Yeah, I kind of like, because there's certain things that I tend to worry about, like as far as like how am I gonna continue sort of the lifestyle that I want for myself. And then when I start thinking about that, or if I get pressure from the world around me, then it's sort of like it gets me really thinking about that. Really, like, what am I going to do about that sort of stuff? You know, like the sort of, yeah, that
the way it happens for Nai'xyy is actually all the Nai mojos is the V when it gets like going a lot. It can be healthy, but it can get unhealthy quickly because modulation is there's an association strongly with adrenaline. When V gets going, adrenaline tends to get going as well.
Yeah, the adrenaline usually comes when like I get it when like there's a moment that's gonna come up that's gonna be a bit high energy kind of moment. That's when it kind of like I get that kind of nervous feeling like how is this gonna go down, and I don't really know how to like deal with that. I'm just sort of like waiting for the moment and then sort of like seeing what happens when it does, and it's like, okay, now how do I proceed from here? You know, it can be kind of like a you know, it's a high energy moment. It's not always a positive. Yeah,
okay.
And then
what works for me, not always, but what helps sometimes is this is where the Kensei lifestyle can be very, very helpful. Is I know that certain activities or certain efforts I can do because I've just trained them so much that even though I'm really stressed right now, I can still do that much. I often do this, and I'll kind of go to, like sometimes I'll get to where I can't do the activity I wanted. For example, I might get to where I feel like what you're talking about, Glenn, I get it a lot, and I'll like, I don't think I can write today. I just do not have the confidence to write. That stomach clamping, adrenaline, anticipatory state, I don't think I can write. So sometimes I can get my spirits and get past that and still write, but other times, a lot of times, I will find another activity. I will downshift my gears and find something I can still do. And I find it's a lot like in a video game where you're hit by an area effect spell that slows your character down, like toxin or whatever. If you can keep going forward, you can save the character. Even if you're walking slow, if you keep walking, the drug will wear off and you'll walk outside of the range of the toxin. So I find I like to find something that I can walk forward with. Just honestly, at one thing, just to kill the time. Because when you're in that state, it feels like every second's forever and you're jumping out of your skin. So I like to do something that will help me forget the time and some kind of productive work that often is simpler and easier than I normally would do. But in my current state, that's about what I can handle, but at least I can do it. It gives me something to think about, and I don't know, kind of like walks off the fear toxin a bit. Kind of like gets it out of my system a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like a flush. Obviously, you still have to deal with the issue that's bringing in that energy. But sometimes you're just stewing, and stewing is not very helpful. So when I find I'm stewing, I like to kind of like distract myself in a healthy way and burn off my energy in a healthy way. Often I find, on that real quick, often, Glenn, when that happens, because I'm doing that for that purpose and my spirits are still thinking of those higher things that are on your mind, often I get into a nice quasi-state after I do that sort of like token effort forward in some area. What I need to be doing on that bigger issue that's really kind of arresting me, I might get a clear-sighted little nugget there. But sometimes when I'm like staring it right in the face, it's just too big, too bad, and it's coming too fast. I don't know what to do. So sometimes I need to step away and do something to distract myself. And in that distraction, Nai'xyy Genius often visits me. That helps you come up like what I need to do on that big issue.
Right. So just to sort of, I wanted to just articulate, you know, the thoughts that I was kind of thinking about. Like, so you have the event that's going to come up. It's going to come up, and then it's better not to dwell on it. So you kind of keep yourself busy doing some kind of flag forward thing that kind of gets your mind off of it, right? I think is that what you're trying to say? And then when you do that, then Nai'xyy Genius will come on later. When will it come on after the main issue, the event, or is it going to come on?
Hopefully, it will give you insight. It can be right when you're doing activity. I find myself, it tends to be like when I get into a good groove on the activity, I'm like la la la, like a happy little elf. I'm doing some simple flag forward, and I kind of like zone out, and I find my Nai'xyy Genius can visit me without the fear of that topic choking me. Sometimes based on the fear of what's happening, it chokes the genius. And you need a way to kind of like get that genius, that Nai'xyy Genius pump flowing again. And doing a simple flag forward, I often find it opens up that flow again.
So it gets your energy moving in momentum again, basically.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing a weird.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
Okay, go ahead, it's gone.
Helicopter.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, you kind of need to get into momentum again,
yes,
in order to then find the groove.
But then if you tell your Nai'xyy sometimes that we're going to get into momentum in order to solve this issue, it can make you too nervous and choke. And also, Nai'xyy does not like starting out its, infinite blank canvas visioning with a goal already in mind. And so when the world is actually saying, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? That means every time your Nai'xyy tries to vision, you're already telling what it needs to think about. And Nai'xyy doesn't think best that way. A lot of times I find that Nai'xyy has stuff it wants to think about. And in order to get to the genius of how you deal with that big issue, you need to let the playlist get to that song. So you have to go somewhere to where you can kind of chill out and let your playlist go through enough songs to get to the one that'll help you with that issue. But if you actually go in and keep trying to get a specific song, Nai'xyy like, hey, sing a song again. Hey, sing a song again. Hey, sing. Okay, I'm not a fucking trained SEAL. Nai'xyy really doesn't like that. So even the world is saying, what are you going to do after college? What are you going to do for this? Where's your house going to be? Who are you going to marry? Like, Nai'xyy is not giving a shit about that. Although, once it knows that the world wants to know that, the Nai'xyy will come with answers in what it feels is the correct turn. It's really annoying, and that's where Nai'xyy can feel yin, is you basically have to wait for your jukebox to get to that song.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you actually keep asking for that song, the jukebox just won't play. And then you won't get any music, including like the 10th or 20th song that's the one about that particular issue. Nai'xyy really doesn't like to just discuss in a certain set sequence, especially by a topic set down by another person. Nai'xyy hates that. It likes to talk about what it wants to, and it likes to, this is key though, you can count on this, Glenn. Nai'xyy likes to show off genius, it likes to make your life better, and it does like to answer every question eventually. But it likes to choose what it's going to think about and which question it answers in what order. So you got to kind of like get that pump flowing again in some way, and then like keep pumping it. I keep pumping it until like I do sometimes where I'll get like nuggets for like a new episode to do, and I just write the nuggets down. I don't film the episode. I just write it down. I find things I'm going to say to you guys. I don't do it yet. I just write it down. But my spirits seemed happier that I listened to what they were saying on those topics, and I wrote down like, okay, I'm going to do that. And then they give me the genius on that life in your fucking face topic. And that seems to be the way they like to give it better. They don't like being, just like you don't like being pushed around by the world, your Nai'xyy does not like being pushed around by you in the world's service. It will rebel quickly when it feels that.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, we can wrap it up at 7:30 promptly, because I think we had a good discussion on this. So if there's any more last thoughts, we can have those, then we can go ahead and sign off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about you, Mitchell? You haven't said a lot on the Doubt Demons. I'm curious of your thoughts.
I mean, I definitely agree with everything said. Like, yeah, one thing I said is sometimes I'll get that in the morning, like, like often at night. Like that is generally when I get a lot of stuff done too. Like what you guys were saying, I think that's actually pretty common for Nai'xyy in general. Like later in the day because of the nighttime preference.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like when there's lower stimulus. So I end up getting a lot of stuff done, and then usually I'm so tired at the end of the day, I don't really have a lot of energy to worry about whatever. That's kind of how I try to get to sleep. And then in the morning, sometimes I have to just sort of, I'm just sort of sluggish when I'm sort of in that headspace.
Definitely. Yeah, also something Nai'xyy was saying about him moving as well is that getting used to a new situation, having something throw off like your lair lab can affect your confidence. Like, because as Nai'xyy, we do stuff with our, I don't know what that is, but as Nai'xyy, we do stuff. What is that? What is that?
Like an invite. That is someone's video calling someone.
Anyway, but something Nai'xyy do a lot is they use media, they use their friend, lair lab, they use special locations in the city they live in, for example, and they do that to constellate this world they want to live in, not the physical world they're in. When that connection to this world, this virtual world is in any way affected, that hurts Nai'xyy's confidence quite a bit. For example, like you feel like you're in a certain kind of character and you feel strong, and then like someone in your family or a friend or something on TV, whatever, it questions that about you in a way that makes you don't feel like you have an answer. Then all of a sudden your confidence can go down. But when you overcome, I find you get a confidence boost on the back end, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so one other thing I was just gonna say is I really think the way you were talking about Nai'xyy is just a lot of the way it works in general, which is that it just needs a lot of time to ponder stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'll notice then people could sometimes get annoyed at Nai'xyy how long they could take to do things, and that's another reason. They sometimes just make mistake as being like adaptive or something.
Yeah, and then also the one where, and this is also why it's sometimes good to take a break from the actual topic that's like stressing you.
Yeah.
Because often the answer is not any of the answers that are being offered to you.
Exactly. Like you just sort of have to kind of come up with it.
Right.
And that just sort of happens.
Nai'xyy trying to figure out which one of these answers is right, but you actually have to go off and find secret mystery answer that wasn't on the board yet.
Yeah, no, that happens to me like with my Nai'xyy with like everything. Even if I'm working on something like a math problem that I'm having a trouble answering, like sometimes I just need to spend some time away from it, and all of a sudden, hey, maybe I should try this.
Do you guys know what happened to Ben? Is he still there?
Oh, I'm still there.
I see Ben.
I see his face like sort of.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I see Ben. There he is.
Can you hear him?
Ben, do you hear us?
Can you hear me?
He might be moving.
He looks he's moving.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you
Is it a good time to end the session, guys?
We can end. Yeah.
Wait.
It's almost 7:30.
We can end. I don't have. Oh, was that you, Ben?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I?
We can hear him.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and call it because I think we covered that first case well, and I think we went over the doubt demons well. If you have any more questions or anything at all, Ben, you go ahead and send an email or do a forum.
Yeah.
We can talk more next time. But this was really great.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
All right,
I mean, I might
so we'll go ahead and then let me see, Glenn. I need to get a bit into varieties or degrees frenzy, and then also something for Nai'xyy if I have time. And then Mitchell, you're going to do 2 Facebook items. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I wanted to just contact Nai'xyy in general, and wait. Do we need? We don't.
No, but you know the 2 items, right? So.
Yeah.
So.
Whatever. And oh yeah, and I also want to put the Hangouts up.
Yes. Oh, and I don't know how difficult this would be, but do you think you could put like a time code on the 2 topics we talked to? I think people would find it a lot easier to reference these Google Hangout recordings and to rewatch them if the topics we talk about actually have like a time code. That way they can just jump to there.
Could I do that? Are you asking?
Yes.
I can try to. Yeah.
Okay, and if you can't do like any linking on then if you at least just have it to where you like state the time, like when the topic happens, and then people they can still just take the jog.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. I don't even know how to link stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's fine. But if you can just do that, I think it would help people research it, and I think a lot of times people might also reference things that we say in these Google Hangouts and forum posts, and having the different topics tracks, basically topic tracks have the time that they were at would help a lot in that referencing.
Yeah, I'll try to do that.
Cool. All right. I think tonight we only had 2 topics, so it should be pretty easy.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Great session, everyone. And nice. Came in at 7:30 tight. Have a great night. And let's see. I'll be seeing you all on Sunday as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, and Glenn, before we sign off, the writing that you did so far was outstanding. Great stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Just keep going like that. It's really great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you? I've actually finally got started writing stuff, so I'll probably get something to you guys soon.
Great.
If you want to see it by the end of this week, I'll probably have about 3 or 4 topics, a draft of them.
Perfect. That'd be wonderful. All righty. We're all set. Have a great night, everyone.
All right. Yeah.
Have a great night.